Welcome back again. In previous section, we have discussed the roles we can employ when passing a message to a model, a system, user or assistant role. We then used a system message to create a chatbot that adopts a sarcastic persona. In this video, we will discuss a few more parameters that can affect the model's response. Its maximum number of completion tokens, level of randomness, and the option to stream it. Let's begin with tokens. As discussed earlier, OpenAI sets its model prices based on number of input tokens and the number of completion tokens, those the model generates. Both are capped to prevent users from inputting an excessive number of tokens and to stop the models from generating endless text. Still, it's essential to have additional control over amount of text generated. Models often tend to provide more information than needed. This can cause a problem in the long run since we pay for the tokens the model outputs. As a side note, the pricing only applies when using OpenAI model through the API. In contrast, the ChatGPT platform is subscription based rather than token based, and you don't need to worry about models generating long text. Alright, it's time to see the token parameters in action. First and foremost, I am going to load external environment for my system. I have already used my long-chain environment LLM, which we created in earlier section, and I'm going to load this environment here. Then I'm going to import basic library for upcoming cells. Here is operating system and OpenAI. Then I'll use the OpenAPI key, which is the same name, which is having the same name as we defined in that env folder. So this is the OpenAPI name, which is defined in .env folder. When defining the next variable, which is completion variable, as you can see here, this is just relevant variable. I'm just moving it down, and the last here, keep the system message the same. However, let's test the model with a different user message. Could you explain briefly about a black hole is? Can you see? This is the question I'm just going to ask. Define the maximum tokens parameter by assigning a completion tokens limit of 250 only. Run the cell and print out the content here. Can you see? It's taking some time because it's also importing model GPT-4 here. Let's print this variable completion. I'm going to print this variable completion. Can you see? This is consisting and depicting all the relevant variables as well, creating model's name, choice, what kind of a message role we have, what kind of fresh response do we have, what kind of prompt tokens and audio tokens do we have. Now I'm going to access our sarcastic chatbot. Gives an excellent response. Let's now see how it performs when we narrow the cap down to 50 only. I'm going to provide this value and going to run this cell. Now allow me to run this completion variable only. Can you see? This would be the less token here. This is the completion tokens 50 only. Previously it was showing completion token this 114 and total token 156. So this is the reason we are going to define different values here. So for example, I'm going to define this completion. This is 50 and here we have 250. So for the same, we are getting the less value here. This is less completion tokens. Now I can go back to get a much shorter response, maybe even incomplete. So we need to careful not to animate the model too much. So now revert to 250 tokens and define the temperature. Okay, so now in this part I'm going to define temperature. It accepts values from 0 to 2. Wherever higher value increase response randomness, although it defaults to 1. Let's explore its behavior at extreme. I'm going to run in this cell, set the model's temperature 0 and remove the sarcastic condition to create more of an educative rather than a sarcastic bot. Let's ask it to explain what black holes is there. So you can ask the question from this one. So if I will ask the value here, can you see this is just giving the value? A whole is just a region of content, this is limitation road, and this is the entire values here. Whereas you can see in the previous session it was showing only 150 or very less code there, but in the previous section it was showing very large response because the maximum token was assigned to 250 only, and the response will depend on this temperature 0 only. Okay, so we obtain an informative response. Try and generate new chat completion by renaming the cell completion object displaying the variable. Let's now increase the temperature to maximum and study these results. So I am going to define this temperature as 2 in this section, keeping maximum token 250 only, and let's see what's the response here. Can you see it's accessing my values and just giving more excessive value there. So we can all agree that this is far from helpful. The bot deviates from the topic very fast. Not a black hole is a piece of space, clubs industry, and giving not long after it starts generating meaningless text also. You can see here this is one meaningless text, this is also meaningless text. Here we have some here we also having meaningless text. So such large temperature values are really helpful. So I'll switch back to temperature values to 0. Another parameter that controls data mine is seed. So I'm going to define parameter with define this chat completion with seed value. So like the seeds we have fed to machine learning algorithm for reproducibility when dealing with LLMs. Data mine is not guaranteed, but the outcomes will be as similar as possible. So you can experiment with this parameter at home. From now on, I'll set the temperature parameter to 0 and seed to 160. I suggest you to do the same to obtain results like mine. So I'm going to run this cell and try to obtain this value there. So I'm going to define some stream as well. So what the stream parameter, let's define this stream parameter here. The another parameter is stream. This allows us to achieve precisely that. All we need to do is add it to the list of parameter and set it value to true. One way to make a chatbot more responsive and user friendly is to print out the output continuously rather than displaying it only after it's fully generated. So the stream parameter allows us to achieve precisely that. So I'm going to running this cell and going to run this parameter also. Can you see this is generating this cell only? So what's the content there? For I in completion you can generate this value. Can you see it's a streaming, it's a continuously generating value. So what's important to know about it is that it can be iterated over a simple for loop like so. We can see this is generating more and more text and giving the relevant output and streaming for the same. So executing the cell, we find a long list objects. As their name suggests, they contain only a small chunk of the pieces. So within a for loop, let's print out the content of this part. For each chunk, before executing the for loop, run the cell defining the completion and then try to run this cell. Can you see it will be some relevant answer? So run the cell defining completion variable to generate and new stream object, and you can look at that we have managed to stream our text on a screen. How cool is that? You can run this cell for the streaming part as well. So this marks the end of our short introduction to OpenAI. I'm convinced you now find creating a chatbot with API is much more fun and rewarding than merely chatting with ChatGPT. It gives you much more control over the responses and allows you to create some exciting chatbots and LangChain leveraging out of the box functionality. That's it. In this following section, we will follow more projects case study in upcoming videos. That's it for now. Thank you.